What up, guys? Well, what a victory. www.wwe.com. What's going on, guys? So we looked at yesterday the free and open source phone that the Free Software Foundation wants to start. Definitely interesting project. Hopefully it kind of turns into something. It'd be kind of sick. Especially, like, I do want competition. I mean, the Pine phone does exist, but it's severely... It's not... It takes a long time. They're, like, very slow. I thought they were, like, dead at... I thought they were, like, like, dead at one point. It might be... just straight up. Yeah, the last podcast was from fucking July of 2022. Their blog is like never updated. From August, and it was some other stuff. I would possibly get their tablet though. Oh, here's the news. We'll just read it in a minute. I missed this one. Kind of sad too, because there's my Pine phone that I got. I ran into some issues with like the software early, like maybe like from when I bought it, maybe like 2 or 3 years down the line. I kind of figured this was super niche and super niche thing, anyways. The tablet would have been cool if they continue to work with like RISC-V. The problem is there isn't a lot of... Damn. And there's not a lot of really like Linux tablets. It sucks because the Pine phone was the kind of pushing really deep into like having a Linux phone, and it's just, it was never really there. And that's I don't know, it kind of sucks, dude. It's because like there's not really really the competition in the Linux phone space. Obviously, with the Free Software Foundation getting the ability, working the ability into it, but apparently Pine 64 is no longer going to be doing the phone for now. The Pro, God, when that released? The Pro released at least 2 or 3 years ago. And I mean, I kind of expected this to happen because, again, there's not... This is a very niche product. And the cost was kind of steep. It was like $400. Yeah, it was not cheap. And I wasn't seeing any updates. Though I will say their watch is awesome. You could probably buy that and feel comfortable. I don't think that's going anywhere. That's the good thing about open source, is open source allows the ability to continue to maintain it, even if the manufacturers like kind of end it. At least the software can still be maintained. And then they have the Pinesil, which is a RISC-V powered open source soldering iron, which I kind of want to get, but I don't know. I don't solder enough. But for $25, that's pretty crazy. And I've read
there is no system.
I've read really good things about it. I've seen. Oh, what's going on? Tuned down. I'm talking the Pine phone. I'm talking about the Pine phone. And so the Free Software Foundation kind of did an announcement the other day, not too long ago, like maybe a couple of days ago, where they are going to work on the development of a free and open source phone, completely free and open source phone called the Libre phone, of course. And I was just talking about my experience with the Pine phone. The Pine phone, I believe, it's me from Discord, Jay. I figured. The Pine phone is no longer going to be actively developed on for now. Maybe in the future when there
My control is absolute.
A need or a want for this kind of device, they might continue with it, but they're going into like some AI stuff and some other things. So this is like, I don't know, it's kind of a problem because like it lacks
Soon
the competition side of it. But did you get the Nova Custom? No. All right, I'm going to talk about that for a second. No, I'm kind of pissed because I ordered this. It's getting close to a month. It's getting close to like the 28th will be like a month. And I'm trying to be charitable because they're a European company. They're a small company. But at least an update, or at least tell me like the shipping, there's like a shipping warning. Like, hey, there's a delayed warning. I think that would have, why do a lot of those sort of companies always lag? It's something, I would have normally made, the tariffs were already kind of included in the price, and they kind of like, they say 3 to 6 working days after testing and development.
My network
Why didn't put that on your website?
Vast.
So I emailed, I had a problem with the payment. I had a payment issue problem.
Harder.
Long story short, got that figured out. They answered within a day. I'm like, all right, cool. That's good. That's good timing. Because it's not cheap. This isn't like a cheap device. This isn't like something that I'm spending a small amount of money on. I'm kind of minimalist and very frugal in general, especially when it's from like, this is something that I want to last a long time. I didn't even want to get a new laptop until mine literally took a shit, and unironically I talked about it taking a shit, and then a week later it took a shit. So I'm trying to be charitable, but they say 3 to 6 days of testing, 3 to 5 days for testing. I'm like, okay, that's fair, understandable. Motherfucker. 3 to 5 days for testing, and then after the testing, we're gonna just attack. After the testing, it'll take 3 to 6 days for US shipping. They have a partnership with a big distribution company, like for the shipping part. I was like, all right, cool, not a problem. So I emailed them about one issue, answers, and then I emailed about an issue. They emailed me back, and I'm like, order, like, where is it at? Where's my shipping label? Like, where's my tracking number? And they're like, oh, once your order is all complete after the testing, everything, you will get an automated email. And that was, at this point, let me see what date? That was almost 10 days ago. So I assume the fucking Europeans don't work on the weekend. So I was like, being again charitable. Like, I understand it's a small company, and it's like in Europe where they care about their employees. But I'm like, you guys could at least, hey, delayed issues, something. I understand. Like, there's probably other orders. Actually, I think this is such a niche product. I don't think there is that many. I don't think they're getting, like, I assume they're not getting hundreds of orders a day. If they are, fucking great. I don't want them to go out of business or anything, but goddamn, man, I don't know. Their communication just kind of not good. And their website, it's like their website and the shipping, they literally tell you like, oh, just pay attention to like the checkout. And I looked at the checkout and it told me like an estimated time frame of when like all this would be done, when I would receive it, like between X, Y, and Z. And then they have a map of like, hey, this is when you'll receive it by XYZ based on XYZ. I'm like, dude, you got to be smoking crack. Don't even put that. Like, this isn't like a $100 item. This is a very expensive item that's coming through customs. Again, I get it. But I don't know. I'm trying to be charitable, but like that's a already very negative. I already have a very negative outlook of that.
I am indestructible.
Just in perspective, I like that to me, especially with the amount you spend on these things. They're not cheap. I think that is not a good look. Don't even put a shipping time. Don't even, just remove it. Because having the little asterisk, it could be different from day to day. We get it. But goddamn, bro. It's, I don't know, 30 days. If it hits day 30, I'm going to be pissed. And I've ordered something from Germany for my Nitro key. The shipping cost more than the key, but it came way faster. My Nitro key, I understand these are two different things, but goddamn, bro. And I almost bought from Nitro, but I didn't for... I had my reasonings why I didn't at the end of the day. Have you seen the Star Labs? Yeah, I've seen the Star Labs. They're fucking expensive too. But I probably should have fucking went with them. And I think they support core boot. Their customization is a little bit less though. Their pricing is not terrible. Like I would have spent a little bit less, but no. I lost. Unless you put something in there. Place card. Okay. It's Jed. I remember when hard drives were scarce. Had to wait a long time. But it's not even like we have it's not a global supply chain shortage issue. It's not a COVID issue. The tariffs are more or less like, I'm gonna lose this one. The tariffs are like, okay, I get it. Like this is causing this is like expensive, and it's already priced in. And I'm trying to be careful because it's a small company, but the lack of the communication is terrible. Like there was a few options I had. I went with Nova Custom because I heard great things. I'm not expecting it in 2 days either. Like, I wasn't expecting it in 2 days. I wasn't even expecting it a week. I was giving like week and a half to 2 weeks. I'm like, this is definitely a 2-week type shit right here. This is some 2-week type shit. Hope you didn't get scammed. If I get scammed, first off, I'm not retarded. I will get it back. No worries. Well, first off, when I go to a website, I bookmark it. So I'm not picking the wrong site. And I make sure their email is like good. But because I wanted to maintain like a high level of privacy, I took some extra steps to purchase it, but I'm not retarded. Let me see. And the thing is, people like the last like 5 years have been like Oh, they're great. But again, reviews are bullshit. Like, I get it from they're from the Netherlands, like Europe, and they have a good rating. And once I get it, I'm not a review channel, but I'll do a review on it. Oh yeah, 100%. I would never purchase something this big without making extra steps to make sure that I'm not getting fucked. My issue is the lack of good like, I don't want to keep emailing these fuckers, but it's like, bro, I don't think they're scamming, but there definitely could be like a typo squatted website, a fake website. I mean, this happens all the time. I don't think they're scamming. I just think their communication's kind of bad. This is just some constructive criticism, I guess. And people will say like, "Oh, it's just shipping." Where is it? They're like, "Oh, it's just shipping. Just wait." I am waiting, but I've had better communications with spending less. I've had better communication spending less of like, hey, your it's not coming XYZ. Like, you know what I mean? It's delayed. I thought about Tuxedo. I thought about Pop OS. Information, there it is. Like, they answered my email pretty fast, but their shipping policy's kind of interesting. So, where is it? Yeah, they don't ship to Afghanistan. 1 working day. It's like, all right, I get it. Like, you know, in Europe, 3 to 6 working days for the U.S. They're like, we tend to ship here as soon as we can. Our shipping partner with UPS, blah, blah, blah. We need time to assemble, install, test your system. We need at least a few working days until we can dispatch your order. The delivery depends depending on your selected product and communication on the cart page. By the fucking way, yeah, it told me like a couple of working days to test my system. If there's a shipping issue, the plan would... But, like, don't even have this on your page. Like, this is fine. This is fine. This is understandable. The delivery time depends on your selected product and communication. It's communicated on the page. It said a few working days. Like, I think it said, like, 3 to 6 working days. And then the shipping was going to be another, like, 6 working days. I'm like, okay. Working days, I'm assuming, is Monday through fucking Friday, because they're European. So, like, even if it was Monday 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then another 3 to working days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If it hits the 30, I'm gonna be pissed. Yeah, I wouldn't even count. Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm not. I shouldn't even count Fridays, but like, the Netherlands are like, oh no, we won't. What? We don't work Friday. Friday for slaves. That sounds American. I can't do a. What Netherlandian accent? What do you mean you work Friday? What a terrible idea. Very stupid. Very American of you. But I'm just saying Nitro. Germany. Or something small company ships only on certain days. I have no idea. Like, internally, I'm trying to be charitable, but it's like, dude, why do you guys even post shipping days, though? Like, don't even do it. Just be like, hey, your order is going to come between, if you said 4 to 6 weeks, I'd be less pissed. I'd be like, all right, 4 to 6 weeks, a month and a half. Cool. That's more reasonable. Then I know, I'm like, all right, they don't have an actual time frame. 4 to 6 weeks sounds great. Don't put 3 to 6 working days and then 3 to 6 working days, because those are like I don't know. First off, I don't know what the fuck working days in Europe is. Working days could be like fucking like 9 a.m. to like 1 p.m. and they could be done. Yes, guys, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and we are done. This is Europe. This is how we do it in the Netherlands. Like their warranty's good. I've read good reviews. I understand they do core boot in a good fashion. But that is an oopsies. Though I do like, once I get it, definitely gonna go like really like dive into it if somebody's willing to wait the time frame for it. I've definitely seen like the core boot. I mean, core boot by default is good, and I'm glad that more and more like core boot Linux laptop companies are coming in. Nice victory. Victory screech. Gaming wise, I'll never really get to know because quite literally, I'm going to put CubesOS on it. Now, CubesOS does have they do have something in the works at some point that they will incorporate a way to virtualize GPUs in an isolated manner, and Wayland will be isolated in a manner that would be kind of cool in the future, where I could have a complete separate virtual machine just strictly for gaming. There is a script to do it now. It's unsupported. It's community driven. I don't know how much of it breaks like the security model of CubesOS. Probably a lot in hindsight, but it is interesting to think, because like technically GPUs don't have any isolated process on Windows. I mean on Linux. This is why the Wayland kind of solves this in a sense, because it virtualizes and sandboxes the I think X11 just isn't really secure, but the GPU Wayland kind of serves a way to make your display manager more secure, but GPU has really, like, GPUs have a lot of access, so this kind of like breaks the security model, so it's something to think about. It's kind of interesting. It's an interesting thought in the Linux space on why gaming has too much access and essentially breaks a lot of the security in general. But what I read is that Wayland, how they would do it, there is like a theory in possibility, is Wayland would be its own virtual machine. It would act as an intermediary kind of like an in between, a man in the middle, to just serve the display in like maybe applications that use Wayland, and this would essentially, in its own sense, is this a spider? Yeah. In its own sense, would be in between you and the application, and it would serve it to kind of like isolate the process. It's kind of cool. No. Here. Damn. Why isn't Libre Boot a good as crew? It's less maintained. It's so you want thing in software in modern society, you want fast, efficient updates as quickly as possible because it's more efficient, it's more secure. But what could go wrong is not good enough that I'm on. But what could go wrong is not good enough that I'm on Libre Boot. You have to remember that if your system's inability to be very secure and very efficient, that's gonna be a good card. Then you essentially are achieving nothing, if that makes sense. If you're doing all this work to secure your system, picking secure software, picking a secure operating system, but your hardware at the end of the day is getting critical microcode updates and patches and security patches, then you essentially are doing nothing. You are just polishing a turd. Hardware security is always an afterthought. It's something that people don't think about. And because they don't think about it, it essentially is a problem. Ooh, I'm 3 to 4 away. Let's block you. Oh, it's got. All right, I'm done. I'm cooked. I'm cooked here. So Libre Boot is the maintenance is less, the support is less. But you have to remember, beyond that, like, LibreBoot is a stand on a philosophical perspective, if that makes sense. Like, LibreBoot is, the Free Software Foundation is very philosophical, in the sense that they are making a stance that there should be no proprietary blobs in there. And again, that's their choice. It doesn't mean that I agree with everything they do is right. If security is your main concern, I would not use LibreBoot. And of course, they're going to be like, well, it's more secure. Like, I don't like I used to really fuck with LTS, like LTS software. I don't anymore. I like rolling release. Rolling release is not as unstable as everyone makes it out to be. I think the security benefits outweigh the problems that people think they have. Bleeding edge software is like edging every day, but in real life. But it always comes down to your. I always say it comes down to your preference. It comes down to like whatever you like. I won't ignore the issues that exist in Linux to make people feel special. But at the end of the day, free software and open source in its nature is supposed to be free software in its nature, and free and open source software in its nature is supposed to give people user choice at the end of the day. And I agree with it. I think you, at the end of the day, should have choice. If you don't, what is the purpose? What is the purpose of having choice? You then quite literally are entrusting what you might as well just use Microsoft or Apple, you know what I mean? To do it for you. Like I even thought about using, like, getting like an old ThinkPad and putting LibreBoot on it, because I'm like, oh, it's kind of cool. But then after reading the pros and cons, there's GNU Boot. Guys, never mind. There's GNU Boot. GNU Boot is a core boot distribution in the same way that they're a Linux distribution. GNU Boot provides free LibreBoot firmware based on core boot, replacing proprietary BIOS UEFI firmware on specific Intel and AMD x86 ARM-based motherboards, including laptop and desktop computers, and initialized hardware, and starts a bootloader for your operating system. Linux, BSD are well supported. Helps available in GNU Boot. But the thing is too is like, you have to trust the long-term maintenance of these things. You have to understand like who's behind it and how dedicated they are to it. If the team behind it is not as dedicated and or long-term invested in the project, then you quite literally are picking a project that could end at any time. And just because I agree that, like, yes, open source has its benefits, but you are quite literally not everyone picks up an open source project when it gets abandoned. That's not always the case. It's a great byproduct of it, but it's not always the case. Son of a bitch. I did the whole pile thing. Thoughts on that? Pile is great. Honestly, very goated. Having the control over your DNS. DNS is like one of... Fuck this. We're going to talk about DNS. DNS is actually crazy to even think about. Oh, I don't know why I typed in the word DNA, but the amount of people that I've talked to that did 23andMe is concerning. Like, super concerning. Because I don't think people understand, like, DNS. I don't think people really understand networking or DNS. I think these are very complicated. I don't think they're complicated. I just think that they're an afterthought. I think that they're not only... Yeah, before I was just using my ISP modem and router and had to take control once I found out about it. Oh, yeah, your ISP's modem automatically uses their own DNS server. Even if you use Pi-hole. So this is not a common misconception. If your ISP can automatically redirect to their own DNS provider. So it doesn't even matter, if that makes sense. You could quite literally have Pi-hole their router, and it'll still ignore your request and go to their own DNS provider, aka their own. DNS is huge. So almost every activity on the internet starts with a DNS query, often several. A key function of the DNS is to map human readable names, bigbussy.com, to IP addresses that computers need in order to connect to the internet. Obviously, you're not going to go into your web browser and type Facebook's IP address. So you would go to facebook.com. Facebook.com is mapped to a specific DNS, like a domain name system. Whilst the data in the DNS is public, individual transactions made by the end user should not be public. This is true. However, DNS queries that are sent in the clear text using UDP, pretty much, UDP is like fast but unreliable, TCP is slow but reliable, or TCP, which means passive eavesdroppers can observe all DNS lookups performed. The DNS is a globally distributed system across the international boundaries and often used in many different countries to provide resilience. It is well known that the NSA used more cowbell and quantum DNS tools to perform covert monitoring, mass surveillance. I actually do not know about this. What the fuck? Let's look up quantum DNS. We'll look at that in a second. This is kind of interesting. Thought-provoking, actually. So the NSA used more cowbell and quantum DNS tools to perform covert monitoring, mass surveillance, and hijacking of DNS traffic. Some ISPs log DNS queries at the resolver and share this information with third parties in ways not known by or oblivious by end users. This is kind of true. Some CDNs, which is content delivery networks, this is like Cloudflare, Google, etc., embed their users' information in client subnets and queries from resolvers to authoritative servers to geolocate end users. So in DNS, you have like authoritative servers and then like you have like authoritative DNS and then unauthoritative DNS. So authoritative DNS is a system that keeps the official records corresponding to the domain name search, such as IP addresses. Domain names are the human-readable names of IP addresses that direct applications such as browsers and websites such as www.bigballs.com. IP addresses are designated to that. Then there's smaller DNS servers. Some CDNs do this. Resolvers authoritative servers to geolocate. This allows for correlation and queries particular subnets. Note that even when using a VPN, some VPNs will still leak your DNS queries by sending them unencrypted to your ISP. Users from Nice Tool from Anon Meister to check if this is happening to your VPN. So Graphene OS had this problem. Android in general, let me rephrase that. Android in general had this problem. This was fixed because of Graphene OS. They noticed that Android had an issue. I think it was a part of the tunnel vision where your DNS queries were being leaked regardless if you're using a VPN with lockdown mode or not. This still, I believe, in 2025, if I'm wrong, please someone correct me. Apple, it still happens. People were still able to see the DNS leaking through Apple's VPN, even if it was always on, like a kill switch, and it was still happening with Apple. I don't know if it is anymore, but I think it is. So, something to think about. So, VPNs can still leak your DNS. This is why there is an argument that if you use a VPN provider and use a different DNS, it can correlate you because it looks unique. Hey, this person is using Mulvad VPN and they're using Quad 9 DNS. That's kind of unique. Their general suggestion is to use either, if you're using Mulvad VPN, use their DNS query, like their DNS. This is kind of an all-in eggs, one basket scenario. There are some scenarios where putting all your eggs in one basket might have a net positive because everyone looks the same, and it would be hard to correlate this kind of information, especially if you got Monero and you purchased Mulvad VPN with Monero. There isn't much correlation beyond that, especially if you took your phone and you paid in cash. A lot of distant coordination between you and your, your IP address. This is why, like, I would recommend using, like, a virtual SIM or Wi-Fi, or a reject SIM altogether, or use a prepaid SIM that has no identifiable information to your true identity. But I digress. So there's the overview of the problem is given tutorial through DNS privacy tool. DNS zone transfers. DNS zone transfers are transmitted in clear text, again, which gives attackers the opportunity to collect the content of the zone by eavesdropping on the network connections. The contents of the zone could include information such as names of the persons used in the names of the host. Best practice is not use personal information for domain names, but many such domains do. Institutional privacy overview solutions. You don't know if they're kind of deleting these DNS logs. Recursive discovery. One significant challenge around this discovery is which transports a particular resolver, supports and securely acquiring information, requiring to connect and validate particular resolver. The ad working groups in the IETF is currently working in a range of proposals around the issue. Recursive resolver to authoritative servers, etc., zone transfers, and note on SIN. Unfortunately, the server name indicator header in HTTPS messaging also reveals the name of the website content by the user, so provides a similar leakage channel for web traffic as the DNS queries. However, there is work underway in the TLS working group to encrypt the client hello, including the SIN. This is what encrypted client hello is supposed to fix. And if it does, in theory, it is supposed to encrypt the places that you are visiting. And if it does this, then it's kind of the missing piece of the puzzle of privacy. This is actually an interesting read. So TLS encrypted client hello it's developed by Cloudflare, and I know people hate Cloudflare, and I get it. They have a lot of control. Like a lot. And because they have so much, people are like a little... They're like a little scared that they have a little too much power over the internet. No, because this is a complicated question. And I get it. Cloudflare does have a lot of power, but I don't think they really care. I think... So I think Cloudflare cares about privacy. I think Quad 9 is kind of better, but... So, this is a complicated question. It depends what you trust, how much you trust it, and what is the outer look of privacy. Do I think Cloudflare is collecting information and selling it to three-letter agencies, like just for no reason, and they're selling data to third parties? No, not really. Do I think that Quad 9 is better? Kind of. So this is actually a thought. Oh, I wish I had a whiteboard. All right, here's my thought. After listening to many private insecurity podcasts. So you have a pro. No, I'm gonna remove that. You have pros and cons. So you have a line, and can I erase this? So you have two lines. So you have on one end, they're not going to bend it. First off, they're not going to bend the knee for like law enforcement. But you have on one line, Cloudflare is a huge company. I'm going to put MCF. CC. Huge company. Cloudflare. And then you have Q9. Quad9 is a nonprofit. Cloudflare is not. They said, so Cloudflare's, Quad9's argument is we're a nonprofit. We can't do anything malicious. But I kind of thought about it. Yes, you can. Because you're a nonprofit. Somebody owns this nonprofit. So I think one of the better alternatives is to actually just own the business. Own the business, own the means of production, have your employees own the business and the means of production. Don't take capital venture. This is what Tutanota does. So Tutanota, I heard in an interview, they asked him, like, why haven't you gone nonprofit? Doesn't nonprofit have more protections in terms of against like venture capital? And her answer was actually like quite crazy good. Her answer was like, well, who owns the nonprofit then? And I'm like, you're right. That's actually a fucking genius. That's a fucking 4D chess move to even think about. Somebody has to own a nonprofit. A company has to either own a nonprofit. There has to be a board of directors. There has to be public interest. There has to be cost. So instead of doing all that, just have your employees own it. Have two owners, one owner, whatever, and then just make sure that you're profitable at the end of the year. You don't take they don't take venture capital money, and they actually do something that we don't even think about. And this may be respect to Tutanota much more. They don't put out advertisement. They don't use advertisement because advertising can do some form of tracking. That is fucking crazy to even think about. So they don't advertise. They don't do ads. And because they don't do ads, they have to do super organic growth. That's crazy. Mad respect to even think about that. So you have Cloudflare that is a for-profit company that has its pros and cons. That's just a little thought in your head to make the seed grow. So Cloudflare is a for-profit company. Quad9 is a nonprofit. Now, in their country, they might have some protections that can get them grants, that prevent them from running into maybe some legal structure that would force them to hand over maybe information that they're not comfortable with. Maybe there is some legal protection that their lawyers look through. But to denote it, again, not all of Europe is homogenous where all their laws coincide to each other. Like, they're like, oh, you're in Europe, so everything is the same. It's not. Like, there's parts of Europe that you can own firearms, and there's parts of Europe that it's almost damn near impossible. So Europe's not as homogenous as everyone thinks it is. So you have Cloudflare, just in general. You have Cloudflare, and then you have Quad9. Quad9 went the nonprofit route for they have their own reasons. They explain their reasons. They say it gives them some form of protection. Tutanota didn't because they think that, hey, if you are a nonprofit, then somebody still owns you at the end of the day, and that is something to think about. Which is cool. So it's kind of like damn, sorry, I was reading memes. So you have to understand that Cloudflare is a for-profit company that has its pros and cons, and Quad9 is a non-profit, is its pros and cons. Even the people with Tutanota, they're like, well, we haven't really looked at like the legal structure, like and the negatives. They're kind of like happy where they're at. Really good interview that I came across. Very interesting. How they got their pretty much their funding. It like their the developer of Tutanota like worked freelance. They took out a loan and got, I think, like a small grant from like the government. But other than that, they've pretty much been they're subscriber based. And then minus the whiteboard, Cloudflare owns a lot of the internet. They own a ton of it. That's a lot. They own like a lot of the internet, like they're one of the biggest CDNs and DNS providers in the world, and they use lava lamps. The BlackRock of the internet, kind of. BlackRock is an evil company. I think Cloudflare has some good of intentions. I think Cloudflare does have good intentions. I think they just don't want to get like DM. the black off data Cloudflare isn't evil. Yeah. I think the amount of power that Cloudflare has is somewhat of a problem, and something that people that care really about privacy should consider. It's not anything. Look, it's kind of like Google. Like, a Pixel phone has really good security, and people discount this because Google is not really a good company on an ethical stance. Google has made a lot of violations of human rights. Google has made a lot of violations in terms of privacy. Google is just a business at the end of the day. They're not human. So we do put the word evil in front of Google. I mean, people quote the joke like, Google used to say, don't be evil or anything, and they end up being like a shit company. But beyond that, Google as a company, I think they do care about security. And I think they do make secure products. That's it. I think that's a very sane take to have. But because we're so chronically online and everyone thinks that, like, oh my god, Google, like, they're insecure and they're constantly listening. Yeah, but also people have really poor OPSEC, poor digital hygiene. I'm not blaming just the masses, but that is a part of it. I don't think Cloudflare is necessarily an evil company. I think they have policies that they don't want to fucking deal with. I think they have policies they don't want to deal with because they don't want to get fucking sued. Like, they have no DMCA policy. Like, if you use Cloudflare tunnels and you use Cloudflare and you end up like pirating a bunch of shit, like, they're gonna catch you and they're gonna be like, all right, we're banning your account because you're getting us a bunch of lawsuits against it. They don't want to be the lawsuit, and this has been fought in court a ton of times. DNS providers shouldn't be the place to blame for somebody committing piracy, and I actually agree with that. Cloudflare shouldn't be the reason that they shut down because of a DMCA strike. They're not doing the crime. That's like blaming a gun manufacturer for someone doing a shooting. Like, you can't really blame the gun manufacturer. They don't know what someone's gonna do in the future. You know, that's kind of like my easy way to explain it. Or a car manufacturer, or a knife manufacturer, however you want to spin it. Emacs. Emacs is for people. Look, Emacs is the best Linux operating system on the planet. I'm tired, going to sleep. Night, Billy. Even though you just got here. So, like, that's just something that, like, keep in the back of your head in terms of, like, how much am I willing to trust this company? I mean, we all trust Linux. Linux, at the end of the day, at the kernel level, we've never read the source code. Linux could have a huge backdoor in it. Linus Torvald could be working with the NSA. He could be sucking the massive amount of information and just feeding it to the government. And for people that are like, oh, but open source. Ken Thompson's backdoor is often referred as the Thompson's hack, is a theoretical and demonstrated method of inserting persistent, undetectable backdoor into computer systems by compromising the compiler used to build it. Just put that into your head. Now, again, this is esoteric. I think Lauren Wire...
Turing Award is widely considered to be the Nobel Prize of computer science. You may be surprised to know, well, Turing talk about just like a virus so perfect that an original sin passed to every generation of compiler with no cure. He called
I love apples.
it Reflections on Trusting Trust. It was the first example of a meta backdoor, a virus so perfect that even complete code auditing couldn't catch it. But let's think how an original compiler sin could permeate through multiple subsequent generations. Now
Essentially, Ken Thompson, back in the 70s, made a compiler in C that no one could detect, had full root access, backdoor, into any computer that downloaded it. You would never know. Crazy probably wouldn't be as prevalent today, but does exist. And because of this, you, again, have to have some level of trust with the software that you're using, with the CDN that you're using, the DNS provider you're using, etc., etc. This is a very good video. I recommend people like just go fucking watch it. So this is something that like you have to like be somewhat aware of. I think it's like esoteric and most people won't run into it. Sure. But it's something.
I have a story for you as an analogy. About a year ago, I made a video on virtual memory. It was a really good video. I encourage you to go watch it. In that video, I accidentally
Guys, Lauren White is a psyop.
mispronounced the word contiguous
JK.
as contiguous. And so inevitably, when the comments made me realize my mistake, I ended up calling my mom because she watches all my videos. Hi, Mom. And I asked her, did you notice my mistake? And she said, what mistake? And I said, I mispronounced the word contiguous as contiguous. And she just paused for a second and she said, is that wrong? Now, I learned that word from my mom, and she learned that word from her parents, so it has to make you wonder how many
Damn, I wish there was a faster video. Nope. Birdie's British though. Dr. Jones Birch is pretty cool. This guy's like coding autism is really awesome.
how much can you really trust software?
True. This guy gets it. RTP first brought this up in a stream once, and I think Sam Bent brought it up to me one time. It's cool. It's very interesting.
Let me introduce you to a most devious hack by a legend of the computer.
High voice computing to DMC strike me, so I gotta remember. Lecture describing the hack in Linux. You remind.
Programming world, Mr. Ken Thompson.
This reminds me of early 2000s tutorial videos in a good way. In an interesting way. And this video is not 20 minutes. I mentioned when YouTube was 7 minutes.
Is an American pioneer in computing science, as he is the creator of the B programming language, a predecessor of the C programming language. During his Turing Award acceptance speech in 1982, he presented a lecture named Reflections on Trusting Trust. During this lecture, he presented a compiler hack which was so devious that it was given the name the Ken Thompson hack. I will put a link to the acceptance speech in the description below. The hack basically would create a Trojan compiler that would inject backdoor code into the login application.
Which
now
is
that
sick.
sounds a bit
If you think about it, it's kind of sick. I think he proved that you shouldn't trust computers pretty much, and that the open source community is but open source though.
confusing, so let's unpack that a bit with a brief description of what is a compiler.
Open source is good. I think open source is good for society, but this should put you on your toes.
A compiler is an application which assembles other applications from files containing source code. A computer programmer would write the code into files and feed it into the compiler to generate the output application. This step is known as compiling. The source code is written in a programming language that is understood by the compiler. There are many famous programming languages that are compiled. For example, C, C++, C#, and Java.
And Gentoo.
Complex programs can be quite long and convoluted. These kind of programs might have hundreds of thousands or even million lines of source code. It was this level of complexity that Mr. Ken Thompson wanted to exploit when he wrote his seminal hack.
I think that's even why people say that like coding is kind of dead. Because people don't know how stuff works anymore. They just kind of like do it.
The Ken Thompson hack works like this. The hack would insert some backdoor code into a compiler.
Guys, it's red. You know it's bad when it's red.
So that every time the login application was compiled, the compiler, which decided this application, would not find the hack. The exact steps to reproduce a hack is as follows. The source code of the compiler is modified, and the modification is to inject the backdoor into the login application. The backdoor code would be injected into the login application during compilation. The backdoor code also had a variation in which it would inject itself into other versions of the compiler if the compiler was rebuilt. The compiler source code was then compiled so that a new version of the compiler would be created. The source code was then cleaned up so that the backdoor was removed. This way, anyone reading the source code of the compiler will not find the backdoor. The login application would then...
Yeah, as you should. This guy should be watching YouTube too. I mean, this is kind of where zero trust comes into play. Because your trust in the system is becoming less and less. So there's an argument for it.
Then be compiled. This meant that the backdoor code would get injected into the login application by the compiler. Anyone reading the source code of the login application would not find this backdoor.
Yeah, my cat be retarded. Yeah, my microphone be good. So like, this is like kind of like the argument against of the people that are like, well, it's open source. Well, how do you know? You haven't read the code. You not reading the code means you're entrusting the developer. You're not you entrusting the developer means that they haven't put something malicious. I think Go had a problem with this not too long ago, where someone took over a really well-known Go project, and they were spreading like malware or something.
The only way they could find the backdoor was to analyze the binary of the login application
Assembly devs
to find the offending code. If the compiler was recompiled,
and the thing is, like, I'm stoned, so am I. And the funny thing is, like, they like the offending, if they would only be able to find the offending code if they knew what they were looking for. It's kind of like one of those things.
The backdoor would get injected into the new instance of the compiler. This meant that even reading the source code of the compiler would not reveal the backdoor. The Ken Thompson hack was so devilish that even reading and rebuilding the source could not prove whether the application could be trusted.
That's crazy. Think about that. Even after the fucking people, like, kind of figured it, like, even after that, they're like, I don't know, dog. Your software is kind of cooked. So this is by Cryptome. We're going to go back to backdoor and NSA fuckery. But that's called the Ken Thompson hack. Very, very well known, and to not trust your software. We kind of know how DNS works and its privacy issues that's being worked on now with Encrypted Hello. RIP this guy. I think he passed away like earlier this year. Truly a legend. But this is like a really good website. So, a few docs of Cryptomite. Here are a few docs for Cryptomite about the latest Snowden leak published by Le Monde in France 3 days ago on the NSA CSS Threat Operations Center's More Cowboy program. The PPT presentation slides, U.S. National Security Agency, NSA, CSS, Threat Operations Center, NTOC, cyber profiling, and operations support. So pretty much some support for it. Towards secure name resolution on the internet. That'd be kind of sick. This is from 2017. God, that feels so long ago. Because it is. But from what I read, the More Cowbell program is the surveillance innovative development by the United States National Security Agency, the NSA, agency that leveraged the domain name system DNS to conduct covert monitoring of the internet service infrastructure. The program exploits the open nature of DNS traffic. This is why, once you're learning about DNS, a lot of stuff is served over plain text. And if you remember, the NSA, the federal government, three-letter agencies in general, most of their indictments, most of their charges are indicted on metadata. Metadata is the most powerful tool. It is not the actual data. It is not the message itself. It is the metadata. Metadata is the most important. The program exploits the open nature of DNS traffic, which is essential for resolving human-readable domain names into machine-readable IP addresses. To gather the extensive metadata about the website and their availability by using dedicated covert monitoring infrastructure, the NSA performed both active DNS queries and HTTP requests to collect information on the server status, content changes, and other metadata, enabling the agency to build a detailed profiles of the targeted users and systems. Think about the next time you want to commit a crime. To maintain operational secrecy and to avoid attribution, the U.S. government, the NSA rents servers located in various countries, including Malaysia, Germany, and Denmark, with the infrastructure reportedly spanning at least 13 other nations. That's something to think about. But that is something to think about, guys. I would definitely say that DNS is one of the most important versions of metadata, and to keep it, secure and sexy, and hopefully that the client encrypted hello comes into the future. Hopefully that we can discover more of this as it resolves, pun intended. And I'll see you guys in the next one, because I'm going to go look